Ron Dolbeck and Chris Roberts. And now, here's the first round.
You're in the first round live on a Sunday morning. It's cold out, and we watched the biggest game in college football yesterday, but we're going to be talking about everything going on in the world of sports. NBA hit all the college football games. We're going to get you ready for the NFL today, and guess what? The best part about it is you're going to be here with me and my dog, Manny. He's kicking it. Let's get it started off with the biggest game in college football yesterday. LSU goes on the road to Alabama. Joe Burrow, for being the biggest candidate right now for Heisman, he is very effective, but he's not very exciting. Alabama, bad defense. LSU, not much better. But LSU comes out on top in a hard-fought game. We had flyovers. We had the president there. We had two of the best teams in college football. It was an exciting game. It went down even to the fourth quarter. Alabama has a late drive, scores on a bomb, 64-yard pass to Riggs to keep it close. They lose by 5 points at home for the first time in probably a decade or since I was born. I thought it was an incredible game. It had everything you wanted. It had great passing. The defenses let me down. Besides the defenses, there was a couple turnovers, but other than that, I thought it was an incredible game. Like I said, Joe Burrow, 31 for 39 on the game, 393 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He had an interception, I thought, in the second quarter, but they called it a fumble for some reason. I don't know why. He also went for 64 yards rushing, had multiple Heisman moments. He's got to be the front runner. If he wasn't before yesterday, he is today. And again, I think he's just a super effective, smart manager of the game. I really like Joe Burrow. He'll probably be the first quarterback taken in the NFL draft. But as far as the excitement level he brings, I mean, I really don't, Tom Brady's not an exciting guy. He just wins Super Bowls. And that's what I want out of my quarterback. And if he could just manage the game like he did yesterday, beyond that, he took control of the game when he needed to. There was 2 rollout plays in the fourth quarter that were RPOs. He picked up on it, pulled the ball out of the running back's hand, went for 9 yards on one, went for 22 yards on the other. The second one sealed the whole game. They were down in Alabama territory. I thought he looked really good. And on the other side of the ball, Tua, for being obviously injured and hampered by his ankle injury, 21 for 40, 418 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 1 pick. The pick, I don't even understand that throw that he made, but I'm willing to look past that. I thought he had an amazing game. The other story for LSU, and the reason why they won, I think, was Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 20 rushes, 103 yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean, it was taking 3 and 4 Alabama defenders to bring this guy down. I think that he did an amazing job. I'm going to break this game down more when we get into the show, but that was an incredible game. LSU has Ole Miss, Arkansas, and Texas A&M. They should win out, go into the college playoff ranked number 1. Number 4, Penn State in the playoff this year goes on the road to number 17, Minnesota. Minnesota gets it done at home, 31-26. I've got tons of information, stats, and opinions on this game, but the greatest point of the whole game was the ending. I don't know which was better. The whole field covered by Minnesota fans. I love storming the court. I love storming the field. I just think it's a passion-induced reaction. I loved it. That or PJ Fleck running into the tunnel, into the locker room, diving and doing a stage dive into his players, and then crowd surfing. I just thought that was awesome. You're never going to get that in the NFL. That's why college football is number 1. Minnesota proves that they're for real. They get it done 31-26 at home. That was just an incredible event. Another unranked team, 9-0, Baylor. Triple overtime it takes on the road to beat TCU 29-23. They've got a big showdown next week against Oklahoma, and I'm going to get into that one too. Maryland, Chase Young for Ohio State, out for 4 games for accepting a loan from a family friend who turns out to be an agent. I hate that kind of stuff. It didn't matter yesterday because Maryland was just a sacrificial lamb going on the road to Ohio State. They get blitzed 73-14. Ohio State's got their biggest game still coming up. Vandy goes on the road to Florida. Florida gets it done, 56-0, 30,000 empty seats there. It was a noon kickoff. It was cold in Gainesville. Trask had a career game, Florida is what they are. They're not in the Premier and they're not in the lower echelon. They're, to me, an 8-12 team, and that's where they're going to finish out the season. Trask goes for 363 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 picks that he shouldn't have thrown. They had a good game. They keep marching on. Vandy, 96 total yards in offense. How can you do that? Texas at home gets it done over a hard-fought game against Kansas State, 27-24. USC gets a win that Clay, the head coach at USC, needed to get, 31-26 at Arizona State. Number 18, Iowa, loses by 2, 22-24 at Wisconsin. Jonathan Taylor, the story here, 31 rushes for over 250 yards. He went off. Wisconsin seems to have bounced back, but we know what they really are because they played Ohio State and they got blitzed. Missouri goes on the road to Georgia. They get blitzed out, 27-0. Georgia goes to 8-1. Georgia's got at Auburn, Texas A&M, and then at Georgia Tech left on their schedule. They'll be playing in Atlanta for the SEC title. Tennessee, we wrote them off at the beginning of the year. They go on the road to Kentucky, get a 17-13 quality win. And the thing is Tennessee is 5-5 now. They've got at Missouri and Vandy at home. They get a win there, they're bowl eligible. At the beginning of the season, they weren't even eligible to step on the field. Somehow they're 5-5 and they've resurrected and saved part of their season as much as you can by getting only 6 wins. Iowa State goes on the road to Oklahoma, goes for 2 in the fourth quarter in the last minute. Instead of kicking a field goal that would have tied the game, they don't convert on the two-point conversion. They go down to Oklahoma 42-41. The same story with Oklahoma, no defense. Notre Dame goes on the road to Duke, blitzes them out 38-7. Clemson in cruise control 55-10 over North Carolina State. Switching gears to the NFL, Kansas City's going on the road, giving 7 points to Tennessee. The real story in this is Patrick Mahomes is back. How much is he going to be 100%? I got to think if Coach Andy Reid didn't think he was going to be 100%, he wouldn't have be putting him out there. But I am in safety control mode with Kansas City. If there's any chance he's not 100% and I don't absolutely need him in this game, I wouldn't play him. I'd keep him for the playoffs. That's just my opinion. Another big game coming up on Monday Night Football, 7-2. Seattle with newly acquired wide receiver Josh Gordon. They go on the road to San Francisco, who's 8-0. Josh Gordon should be playing in that game. I'm going to break that one down. Seattle's getting 6.5. I'm loving it all day long like McDonald's. The Lions go on the road to 3-5 Chicago. They're getting 3 points. As bad as the Lions are, I think they're still well coached. They have enough talent, and they should win this game. The main reason I think they're going to cover is because Mitchell Trubisky can't move the ball. We'll get into that. How about Oakland out in the West? Oakland at the beginning of the season, with all their problems going on with free agency, AB going off, and Antonio Brown having all his schizophrenic problems, it just looked like a carnival. They've pulled it together this season. They're actually 5-4. They have the 14th best offense in the NFL. Josh Jacobs is going to go over 1,000 yards. He's already got 7 touchdowns on the season. They are way beyond where I thought they would be. I want to talk more about Oakland in our NFL segment. They get a big win at home. Last primetime game in Oakland Alameda Stadium over the Los Angeles Chargers, who are absolutely going the wrong way in a nosedive. Bills, 6-2, go on the road to a 2-6 Cleveland Kardashian team that is 0-3 at home, and for some reason, Cleveland is favored in this game. If you can figure that out, you're smarter than me. You can get a hold of us here at the first round, rd@gmail.com. We welcome your comments and questions. The big game that I'm really looking forward to in the NFL this week, Carolina getting 5.5 points, going on the road to Green Bay. I don't care that Cam is out. I love Carolina plus the 5.5. Feed me all day. Moving on to the NBA, Celtics forward Gordon Hayward breaks his left hand in a 135-115 victory over San Antonio. He should be out for about 2 to 3 weeks. If he needs surgery, they're looking at 6 weeks. I don't know how much that really matters. Boston's got the best record in the Eastern Conference. Hit the brakes, everybody. I know you're going to say the NBA just started, Ron, so relax. I'm relaxed. They're 7-1, though. Nobody thought that the Celtics would be 7-1 coming out of the gate without Kyrie and now Gordon Hayward going down. I'll be interested to see if Brad Stevens is able to level out the team and keep the momentum going. You want to talk about here today and gone tomorrow? The last 5 years, you're playing for a championship, and now Golden State is 2-8. They have the worst record in the Western Conference right now. It's absolutely amazing, and I know that they have Kevin Durant is not a part of the team anymore. I know Klay Thompson is there. I know Kevin Looney isn't healthy. There's a myriad of excuses, reasons, and alibis why you're 2-8. But it's just amazing to me to go from the penthouse down to the gutter in one offseason. Those fans up there, you're in a new arena, and they've just got to be ticked off. I mean, I'm just shocked by that. Lastly, in the world of sports, in the UFC, Khabib Nurmagomedov says that Conor needs to win 10 matches in a row. 10 before he gives him a rematch. I'm not even sure I'm really interested in that. Conor can't go more than 3 rounds in any one fight, so my interest level in that is very low, and that's what's going on in the world of sports. Here, live by myself, Chris out for the weekend in the St. Jude studios, live on YouTube on a Sunday morning. And I want to get to the Alabama and LSU game first. I was trying to choose between a Bud Light Platinum and my vegetable juice, as I call it. It's pretty good. It's got everything you need all day. It's got cider in it and some other things. Beet juice. Actually, beet's really good for the blood, which I know I'm getting off of the sports tangent, but I'm kind of on this health kick lately, and at my age, you got to watch your health. Having said that, Tua Tagovailoa has been watching his health for the last 2 weeks, and we were all interested to see what Tua we were going to get. I think he actually performed really well, but there's no way he was 100% yesterday. You could tell that he was kind of favoring the ankle that wasn't hurt. He's had problems with both ankles in the past 2 years, but there was definitely a discrepancy between 100% healthy Tua Tagovailoa and what we saw yesterday. Even though he goes for over 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, I thought it was an amazing performance, only to be matched by Joe Burrow, who almost goes for 400, 395, 3 touchdowns, and he also ran for 64 yards. So Chris and I have been talking the last couple weeks, and I had brought up LSU's defense. I do not think that they are a upper echelon defense, a lights-out, shut-down defense. I think that they're a middle-of-the-road B+ defense at best, and yesterday proved it because to give up over 40 points, they gave up 38 to Vandy, for crying out loud. They gave up 38 to Texas. They gave up 28 to Florida. They gave up another 20 to Auburn. It'd be bad enough if they gave up just 38 points to Vandy. I mean, top defenses in the country don't give up those kind of points, and that's why I think they're the number 1 team in the country, but it's not like number 1s in the past where you have dominant special teams, offense and defense, a great coach, and an awesome quarterback, possible Heisman candidate that we've seen. I think about the USC teams. I think about Texas. Those teams had good defenses. They weren't giving up points like this. That's the one flaw that I see in LSU's game right now, is the fact that their defense, it could sputter. If they have an off game on offense, which they haven't so far this year, if they have an off game, though, they could sputter. And, if you catch them at the right time, the right team catches them. Clemson, we saw what Clemson did to a really good defense last year up in San Francisco in the championship game with Alabama. It was like awesome offense, awesome defense. You're getting great coaching. You get a team like that, and your defense isn't playing lights out, it might be the end of your season for LSU. Right now, they're clearly number 1. If I'm going to project the college football playoff rankings, I'm going to go LSU 1, Clemson 2. I got to put Ohio State 3. And then I'm going Alabama and then Georgia at 5. And then there's going to be a bunch of discrepancies. Minnesota yesterday with that performance, they've got to put themselves at least at 10. At least at 10. That was a convincing win. Penn State goes into an awesome scene in St. Paul. I mean, that was just great. It was a color out. It was a whole maroon out, if you want to call it that. But I loved the Minnesota uniforms. I loved how they looked. They came out Tanner Morgan was absolutely ready to play. You want to talk about not being blinded by such a big light? I thought Minnesota, PJ Fleck definitely had his team ready to play. They definitely showed that they deserve to be where they're at in the top 20, but I think they're a top 10 team, and I'm going to tell you why. Tanner Morgan, against one of the best defenses, not only in the Big Ten, but in college football, went 18 for 20. I mean, just think about that. This is one of the top defenses that James Franklin has built in Happy Valley up there with Penn State. 18 for 20, 339 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Not only was that one of the biggest reasons why they got an incredible home win yesterday, the quarterback on the other side of the field is one of the reasons why they got that big win. I'm talking about Sean Clifford, the quarterback for Penn State. He threw for a lot of yards, and he was fairly effective, except for one thing, or should I say 3 things. 3 interceptions as they're driving the ball in Minnesota's red zone. 3 interceptions on the road against a team that's ready to peak. That stadium was ready to explode. They had all the momentum, home field advantage, and you throw 3 interceptions in Minnesota's red zone. You can't do that. That's like taking 21 points right off the board. Even if you don't convert on all of them, you're taking 14, 7, 10. You're taking points off the board, and this was a close game, 26-31. Minnesota gets it done at home. I was so happy to see them win that game, and it's not because I don't like Penn State. It's not because Penn State's not good. I was just happy for those fans. When was the last time Minnesota was undefeated? When was the last time they had a big game like this on a national broadcasted game at home, and they won? It was before I was born. I don't ever remember the Golden Gophers being this good. I mean, you'd have to go back 15 or 20 years. So I was really happy to see this win for Minnesota at home, and the end of the game was the best. I mean, all the fans get to be a part of it more so than just buying a ticket and sitting in a frigid seat. They stormed the field, and literally, I've never seen this ever in 40 years of watching sports. You could not see a speck of the green AstroTurf on that stadium floor. It was completely covered with fans, and that's the way, frankly, I think it should be. I don't want these naysayers and bah humbug type people coming out saying, oh, you can't storm the court. You got to think about the safety of the players if you storm the field. The players are bigger than anybody in the stands, plus they're wearing all that gear. Most of them are off the field by the time that those people get on the field, and they're way bigger. They have helmets on. So let the fans have fun. When is this ever going to happen for Minnesota ever again? It hasn't happened since I've been alive. So good for Minnesota getting that win. Penn State, their season isn't over. It's only their first loss. They've got Indiana at Ohio State in 2 weeks, and then they finish up with a free spot on the bingo board by playing Rutgers at home. So the big test for them is going to be Ohio State in a couple weeks. I think that's going to be a lights-out game because, again, Chase Young, the defensive end and Heisman candidate for the Ohio State Buckeyes, reportedly is going to be out for the next 4 games. One of those was yesterday, but they didn't need him against Maryland. But still, I don't know how much of a factor that's going to be. It's definitely going to be, I think, some kind of a measurable impact because he's such a dominant player. 2 weeks from now, that'll be the game of the week. Minnesota finishes out at Iowa. I think that's going to be a tough, close game. They go on the road to Northwestern, and then they finish up with another game that I think is going to be absolutely brass tacks to the wall against Wisconsin at home to finish up their season. I could see them going undefeated, but those 2 games, Iowa and Wisconsin, are going to define the rest of their season, not this game. Baylor goes on the road and gets a well-needed victory to stay undefeated, 29-23 in triple overtime. It just seems like Baylor, for being 9-0, they're just doing enough to get by. Yet last week, they had a game at home against West Virginia, and they didn't look impressive, but again, they did just enough to get by. I need it in the morning. Anyway, Baylor takes on Oklahoma next week. That's going to be the real acid test of their season. We talked about Maryland going on the road to Ohio State, 73-14. I don't know if Chase Young being out, how much that's going to affect Ohio State moving forward, because they're solid in so many other areas. Their running game is awesome. Their coaching, after Urban Meyer leaves, Day just picks right up. It looks like they've actually gained a step. You talk about the quarterback position, and the defense is solid. Yes, it's going to be a missed part, but I just think that Ohio State is just solid in almost every facet of college football. That's why they're in my top 4. Florida, Trask goes for 263 at home against Vandy. 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. You know, if we're going to critique Florida at all, or in a really impressive win at home against a team that frankly is worst in the SEC in offense, worst in the SEC in defense, and I like Derek Mason. I do. I wish good things for Vandy, but that's just where it's at. They're terrible. If we're going to critique Florida, though, the one thing that I would say is they've got to find their running game. I wish that they would be a more well-rounded Florida Gator team by getting their running game started. I don't know at this point in the season. I mean, I think that was the downfall in the Georgia game. They absolutely could not. They were running backwards. It was like you put all of the Florida running backs in a phone booth, shut the door, locked it, put it underwater, and said, okay, go play against Georgia. I mean, that's how ineffective it was. So moving forward with the rest of their season, I think that they've got to get that running game going. And then a side note would be, I'm mildly concerned, and I talked about this at the beginning of the season, about player development. And I could bring up Felipe Franks. I could bring up the secondary in the first 2 games. I mean, let's not forget, the first couple games of the season, they did not look good against a Miami team that, frankly, is not that good. Miami is very marginal. And Florida was giving up a lot of penalties. There was a lot of missed tackles. It wasn't disciplined play. And I think that some of that comes down to player development. Why he was riding Felipe Franks so long, and why Trask only goes in when he gets hurt. And in that game at Kentucky, Florida immediately turned it around. The rest of the game, they go 19 points against none and pull out the victory where they were losing. So my concern moving forward, and this isn't Dan Mullins on the hot seat at all, it's just the player development at Florida I'm mildly concerned about. They've got to have a big offseason. They could have a great year next year, but they've got to get their running game going, and I want to see the maturation rate of the players start ramping up. They get a big win yesterday. Good for them. Texas, once again, their defense fails them, but they escape at home 27-24 over K-State. K-State is so much better than I thought they were going to be. I thought they were going to go to the back of the bus, and this year they're playing tough. They beat Oklahoma. They gave Texas all they could handle yesterday. Good job for Texas getting it done. Nothing to hang your head about if you're Kansas State. Iowa State goes on the road, fought all the way back at Oklahoma to have a chance to tie the game in the fourth quarter. They go for 2, which I really can't blame Iowa State. You're on the road. You have a chance to knock off Oklahoma. They don't get it. Oklahoma escapes 42-41, and it's the same thing with Oklahoma. I mean, it's like I love Lincoln Riley. I love the quarterback play. I love the running. I love their offense. CeeDee Lamb is an incredible wide receiver, if not the best one in the country. And then we have to talk about their defense, which just, it's like mud hitting the wall and sliding down very slowly. That's more exciting. It's more dynamic. It creates more energy than Oklahoma's defense. And this is going to be what kills them the rest of the season. You can't be an upper echelon team with a defense that gives up 41 points at home and a defense a couple weeks ago that let Kansas State run all over you. They get a good win at home against a quality Iowa State team, but I don't know really what the future is for Oklahoma right now moving forward into the playoff. You want to get into that playoff situation, but the thing holding you back is your defense, and I don't know that they're concerned enough, doing anything to fix it. What can you do at this point in the season? It's just, it is what it is, and I hate that saying, but that's what it is. Number 18 goes on the road, Iowa, to Wisconsin. They lose 24-22. Jonathan Taylor goes for 250 yards, which is amazing, and Jack Cohn, the quarterback for Wisconsin, I think he threw for 179 and just kind of managed the game. They were pretty much in cruise control, Wisconsin, the whole game. And then Iowa decided to come back with 16 points in the fourth quarter and almost pulls out a victory on the road at Camp Randall. Doesn't get it done. This is going to be another Outback Bowl type season for Iowa where they go to a mid-level bowl game, win convincingly over some SEC team when they're not expected to, and Kurt Ferentz will have another 8 or 9 win season. That's just what Iowa is. I thought earlier in the season there was a small chance that they would possibly have a breakout. It hasn't happened, so there you go. How about App State? Appalachian State, 8-1, goes into South Carolina, who's not that great. I think Will Muschamp is a D coordinator. He's not a head coach. This has been proven now. He's a great defensive coordinator. App State gets the victory on the road, 20-15. I love stories like this because it's the little guy against what we think of as the big guy in South Carolina. And let's just face it, South Carolina is not that good. They're not a free spot on the bingo board like the Jets, but they're not that far away either. I think that was a blip on the radar when they beat Georgia. Georgia's just had a terrible day, and South Carolina had great defense. Obviously, yesterday, they're not used to playing App State. They're not in their conference. And App State came out of nowhere. I like App State. They're 8-1. They have a dynamic offense and a defense that's just good enough to hold, an SEC team to 15 points. Good job for App State. How about Tennessee resurrecting and saving part of their season? They've got at Missouri and Vandy at home. They win one of those games. They somehow get bowl eligible. I mean, they were a tire fire at the beginning of the season. You're talking about player defections, people wanting to fire the coach already, and now he's got him to 5-5 with a what I think is legitimate chance to get a 6th win and go to a bowl game. They beat Kentucky on the road, 17-13. Great job for Tennessee. I think that they actually get bowl eligible. I think that they'll give Missouri a tough game, and they should beat Vandy. All they need to get is 1 win. We're not asking too much. Notre Dame takes Duke behind the woodshed with a switch, beats them till they're red in their bottom, 38-7. Not a very exciting game. And like we said, number 5 Clemson, 55-10, in cruise control on the road at North Carolina State, who in the last 2 weeks has completely fallen apart. They could have had a good season, but there's just not enough gas in the tank for them to make it to a bowl game, I don't think. They lose 55-10. And our Defensive Battle Award of the week goes to SMU at home against Eastern Carolina. The Defensive Battle Award goes to SMU, 59-51. SMU goes to 9-1 on the season, having a better than average season that we didn't expect. So kudos to them. They have definitely turned it around, and 5-star effort. You almost managed to score 120 points in one game. And if you like offense, then you would have loved watching that game. Sonny Dykes doing a good job with SMU. It's a Sunday morning here in the first round. It's a little bit lonely because Chris isn't here, but I'm here with Ray Boom Boom Mancini on the board. We are live on a Sunday in the St. Jude studios. And if you are liking the content, if you're liking the show, if you become a regular listener, tell your friends about it. We want to grow the first round. Hit the subscribe button right there and give us a thumbs up if you like what we're doing. We try to put together a good show that's informative and entertaining every single week. Speaking of entertaining, I wanted to shift gears and talk about the NFL. There's a lot of big games going on today. One of them is Kansas City giving 7 points to Tennessee. The story here is Patrick Mahomes is going to be playing for the first time in 3 weeks. Again, my concern, if I'm Andy Reid, and I'm not double guessing Andy Reid, he has won several Super Bowls. Actually, he's never won any. He's one of the best coaches who's never won a Super Bowl. But I tend to think that when I listen to other commentators talk about Andy Reid, their opinion of him is a little higher than mine. You got to actually win one of those. But having said that, I would be pumping the brakes on bringing Mahomes back this soon with that type of injury. A lower leg injury, any kind of ankle injuries, I start pumping the brakes on and say, hey, look, Tennessee, we can manage this game and still get a win and give Patrick Mahomes a little more time to heal. When he comes back, if I'm the coach, I want him coming back 100%. Now, I'm not in the medical facility. I don't know exactly what's going on there. But having him have 2 injuries in 2 weeks, the second one, which has put him down for the last 3 weeks, my little spidey senses start going off, and I'm concerned about the health of the guy that is supposed to take me to the Super Bowl this year. And they have fallen flat on that, and it's not just because Patrick Mahomes hasn't been in the games. It's mainly because their defense is like a sieve, and they can't stop anybody. And I don't want to hear about the Denver game where they were playing lights out with 8 sacks, and they held Joe Flacco to a .34 QBR rating because Denver couldn't fight their way out of a wet paper bag. All right, so don't talk to me about how awesome their defense is and then cue up, well, look what they did to Denver. Look what they've done the whole season. Their defense is not that good. So it's not just a Patrick Mahomes injury thing with Kansas City. Having said that, I'm taking Tennessee plus the 7 points today. The Monday Night Football game, I actually can't wait for this. This year we've had really some duds on Monday Night Football. That's not going to be the case this week. 7-2 Seattle with brand new wide receiver Josh Gordon coming over from the Patriots, who they released him. And, I hope he's back on track. I have no ill feelings. I think he's one of the most dynamic wide receivers in the NFL, and I think he can help Seattle. I think Seattle has great coaching, great offense, one of the best quarterbacks in the top 5, if not higher, in Russell Wilson. Now you're adding a deep, big, fast threat in Josh Gordon. And you're playing a defense that is locked down in San Francisco. They're 8-0. Kyle Shanahan has them undefeated up until this point this year. I think this game is going to be tight, and close. I like Seattle plus the points in this one. They're getting 6.5 points. It may be up to 7 by Monday night. I just think that Seattle's going to keep it close. And anytime you've got Russell Wilson, you're going to be in the game. The problem that I have and the concern I have with Seattle right now is when we think about Seattle in the past, we're thinking about that legend of boom defense that's not there anymore. Richard Sherman's going to be on the other side of the field playing for San Francisco. They've traded away a lot of their star players that made that defense lights out. So that has become more of a liability than it has become an asset for Seattle. I still think they have enough ammunition in the gun to keep it close against San Francisco. I'll take the 6.5. Lions go on the road to a woefully terrible Chicago team. They're 3-5 on the season. Detroit is getting 3 points. Matthew Stafford, out of any quarterback in the NFL, probably has more talent than any quarterback in the NFL who's done absolutely nothing, which is sad. I mean, no statement victories, no playoff victories. He makes more money than Tom Brady and up until last year, Aaron Rodgers, which I still can't figure out. And so does Carr. And so does Cousins, and so did Ryan Tannehill, who I can't even figure out why he's still in the league. Somebody's got to explain that to me because that's just mind-boggling. None of those guys has won a playoff game. And yet, before Aaron Rodgers signed his contract last year, they were all making more than Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. I mean, this is kooky talk. Some of these GMs, I'm really wondering, how are they related to the owner? So they got this job. Because it's highly questionable how much they're paying some of these quarterbacks. Over $100 million for Derek Carr? I don't know. He doesn't come off like a $100 million guy to me. But he does come off like a guy who's got a 5-4 record. And Oakland has turned their season around. They get a big victory, as big as it could be, over the Los Angeles Chargers. And I actually can't even believe I'm going to say this, but the Raiders actually have a chance to make the playoffs. Here's who they have left on their schedule. Cincinnati. Cincinnati this year is like a free spot on the bingo board. They play the Bolts again. They get the Jets. That should be a win. Tennessee, winnable game. Then you've got Jacksonville, Kansas City. Those are going to be tough games. And then you finish off the season at Denver. So there's 4 possible wins, which gets you to 9 wins right there. If you can win one of the 3 games between Tennessee, KC, and Jacksonville, that puts you to 10 wins. 10 wins in the AFC. At the beginning of the season, the over and under was 6.5 on the Raiders. So very realistically, you're looking at possibly 10 wins. Definitely they should get to 9. Cincinnati, the Bolts, and the Jets, they should win those games. And I think that's a big victory for them, considering their offense isn't that great. It's ranked 14th in the NFL. And even worse than that is their defense. Their defense is ranked 26th out of 32 teams. It's not very effective. What is the shining light is rookie running back Josh Jacobs out of Alabama, 811 yards. He should go over 1,000 on the season, and he's got 7 touchdowns. So I think Carr is another game manager. He's not going to come in there and be the Lamar Jackson, Pat Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers. He's not on the brilliance level as Brady is. I just think he's able to manage the game. As long as he doesn't blow the game for you, and you allow Josh Jacobs to go for about 90 yards to 100 yards a game, which he's averaging so far, your defense is 2 ticks away from being halfway decent. Halfway, and I say that with a lot of margin of error. I actually like the Raiders' chances to make the playoffs. Having said that, talking about making the playoffs for the last 2 years, the Cleveland Kardashians are at home against the Buffalo Bills. Cleveland is 2-6. The Bills are 6-2. Somehow the Bills are the underdog in this game. Cleveland is 0-3 at home. I don't want to get all into the Cleveland Kardashians. Check out our video from 2 weeks ago, listed below here, where I spent about 11 minutes talking about everything that's wrong with them, why they're overrated, why they should fire Freddie Kitchens, and why they're called the Kardashians. They've done nothing. How they're favored in this game, I don't know, but I don't like to go against Vegas a whole lot of the time, so somebody knows something I don't know. The Bills should win this game. I'll be interested to see how it turns out. That's where I'm leaving it. The absolute lock win of the day, point spread notwithstanding, just straight up money line bet. If you feel like taking a little bit of a risk, the Saints play at home against Atlanta. Atlanta is going in the wrong direction for a lot of reasons. I thought a couple years ago that Matt Ryan, their quarterback, was a little overrated. The year he won the MVP over Tom Brady. By the way, that year Tom Brady had 28 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, won the Super Bowl, and he didn't get the MVP. That's fine. Sometimes MVPs go to guys that are really good that just haven't made it yet, and that was what I think was the case that year. Having said that, Atlanta is a dumpster fire of a team right now. They're going on the road with Drew Brees playing. Alvin Kamara is going to be playing. Their defense is solid. This is my lock of the day. Saints beat Atlanta. Take it to the bank. Now, the big game in the NFL that I'm really looking forward to is Carolina getting 5.5 points at Green Bay. And for some reason, I am just loving Carolina. I know it's Kyle Allen and not Cam, but Cam's best years are in his rearview mirror, quite frankly. And I'm ready to turn the page on him. And if that means trading to get a 4th or 5th round draft pick in the upcoming draft, I'm the GM in Carolina. I'm pulling the trigger on that right now. I've never been a huge Cam fan. In his best years, he was a dual threat quarterback. Dual threat quarterbacks don't win Super Bowls. If you think about the guys that win Super Bowls, they're bolted to the center of the earth pocket quarterbacks. We think about Ben Roethlisberger, Eli Manning, Tom Brady, Joe Montana. Brett Favre could move if he needed to at times, but not a lot. These are the type of guys. And I'll throw in Russell Wilson is a mobile quarterback. He is a dual threat guy because he'll take off and run. But that's the exception, not the rule. And even in Cam's best years, his Super Bowl year, his MVP type seasons, he still was. There was just something about it where I was like, I don't know if he can actually get over the hump. And then he goes up against a lockdown defense in Denver. And frankly, I just thought he quit in that Super Bowl. So if I'm the GM there, I've got to ask myself whenever I'm a GM in the NFL, can this quarterback that I have get me to a Super Bowl? So I look at Oakland and I go, okay, why am I giving Carr over $100 million, way over $100 million? I don't think he can get me to a Super Bowl. So that's what makes moves like that questionable. Kirk Cousins, I can't see him winning a Super Bowl. I can't see Matt Stafford winning a Super Bowl. I just don't see the path to that happening. So why am I going to give these guys $114, $124, $137 million, $86 million guaranteed to Kirk Cousins? I don't understand that. It doesn't make sense to me. I look at Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is having one of his best years probably in the past 3 or 4 years. And he doesn't have Jordy Nelson there. He doesn't have Cobb there anymore. He's lost a lot of his assets. They're still playing lights out. They're 7-2. I like Carolina plus the points, though. I love Christian McCaffrey. I think that Carolina's defense is just good enough. I think that they could keep this game close, but they could win this game. That's why I'm taking the 5.5 points. I think that's going to be the game. If not the Seattle game, this is the other game that I'm really looking forward to today. In the NBA, the Celtics and Lakers are 7-1. We thought that the Lakers could be 7-1 at this point because of the acquisition of Anthony Davis. The whole thing about the Lakers for me is can they stay healthy? Because LeBron, I think, is going the wrong way with the age, which means there's a very important metric in sports. The analytics show us that athletes in every sport, once they hit 33, everything starts declining. And that's right where LeBron is at. And we saw it last year with an injury that kept him out for a long, extended period of time. Anthony Davis, again, is semi-injury prone to me. My big question with these guys is, can they both stay healthy and be on the court at the same time? Because otherwise, you have Anthony Davis and Kuzma and Rajon Rondo running the program. I mean, that's not going to get you to the playoffs or the Western Conference Finals. Or Anthony Davis is down for some period of time, and then you've got LeBron and Rajon Rondo and Kuzma and some other filler players. Dwight Howard is definitely at the end of the rope. His best years are in the rearview mirror. He can be an effective player off the bench, kind of like JaVale McGee last year for the Lakers. But if they're both not on the court at the same time, AD and LeBron, then there's a massive, measurable difference in the Lakers' performance, I think. And I think that that's going to happen this year. I think one of them is going to get the injury bug, if not both of them, for some period of time, and then that will reflect in the record, which I'm not, looking into a crystal ball. That's just an obvious thing. How about the Celtics at 7-1 in the East with the best record? I think that, last year, the whole Kyrie thing, this is why I talk about chemistry and team play. Kyrie was messing up the chemistry for as great a player he is. This is why I think the Nets aren't ever going to win. I don't think the Nets are ever going to win the title. They lose D'Angelo Russell, who goes off for 56 2 nights ago, and is a more than average player, more than decent player. But now you've got KD, and you don't have him till next year, so he's another year older. And who knows if he's ever even going to be at the level that he was before with coming off of that ankle injury. I mean, we don't know what we're going to get. Is he going to be 100%? And Kyrie, for being as talented as he is, dude, you're so talented. But you are a head case. You are a donut head. It's not just the comments about the earth is flat, which you can buy, sell, or trade whatever you want to with that comment. It's the other chemistry things. He actually grabbed the microphone at TD Garden in Boston last year and told the whole crowd, I'm going to re-sign with the Celtics. Now, how did that work out? I mean, I don't have sour grapes over the guy going to New Jersey. That's fine. He's from there. You're a free agent. This is about making money and taking care of your family. You've made more than enough money to be able to do that. I'm talking about what's inside the egg. He's like 5 cans, not a 6-pack. He's not all the way there. The elevator doesn't go all the way up. And when it becomes a chemistry issue and you've got infighting with other young players like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and that whole squad, Marcus Smart, all those guys on Boston are young, talented players that most other GMs were calling Danny Ainge to make trades for all last year. And he corrupted that. So best wishes to Kyrie. We'll see what happens with New Jersey. But I'm a big chemistry guy, and maybe subtraction leads to addition. With him going, and then they bring in Kemba Walker. Now they're going to have a 2 to 3 weeks period where they don't have Gordon Hayward, where he broke his left hand yesterday. And after the, horrific ankle injury where, his leg basically bent backwards, to come back, this is a minor setback. They get it done against San Antonio in an impressive game, 135-115. I think San Antonio is a fairly solid team. But I think the chemistry with the Celtics is right on this year. I think Kemba Walker is a plus. He's almost as good as Kyrie, and you don't get all the nonsense, off-court nonsense. So I look for big things from the Celtics. And then I talked about in the Open, here today, gone later on today. I mean, the last 7 years in the NBA has been dominated by one emblem, Golden State. And I know Kyrie and the Heat had flashes, but it's been Golden State's world, especially the last 2 years, having Kevin Durant there. They should have won it last year, but we have injuries, and that's fine. But to look at where Golden State is at today, they have one home win in their brand new arena. One. They're 2-8, and they're last in the Western Conference. That's pretty amazing. So I think that Golden State, it's really bad to be going from the top of the penthouse down to the gutter. That's where they're going to be this year. And I'm not holding on to the fact that Kevin Looney's going to get healthy. I'm not holding on to the fact that Clay is going to come back and be 100%. I just think it's going to be a really, really long year for Golden State, and I'm sad for their fans. That music can mean only one thing, folks. It is time to thank our support staff. Chris is not here. We wish him the best. Thank you for joining us. I want to thank our producer, the man on the board, Ray Boom Boom Mancini, El Presidente, Chet 40, for all of us here in the first round. Hit that subscription button. Tell your friends about the show. We will be right back here Wednesday live at 7:30 on YouTube with more entertaining sports talk. Until then, take care of yourselves. Have a great week. Bye-bye, everybody.